Greetings and welcome to Mondays with Nicolette. Thank you for joining me for part one of this four-part series. This series is called Find Your Focus. I will be sharing some information as well as practical ways that we can do just that. If this is your first time visiting this channel, please be sure to subscribe so that you won't miss the next session. Okay, but let's jump into the topic for today's session. So as I said, our topic for this series is focus, finding our focus and cultivating our ability to have more focus in our lives. So because we're starting with this topic, we're just going to go into a little bit of theory around the idea of focus and why we would want to develop our focus so that it makes sense for the rest of the series. So we're going to start this by talking actually about the opposite of focus, because I'm sure we can see ourselves in some of these things. So one of the indicators of a lack of focus is procrastination. So procrastination is the stalling of getting started. This is often accompanied by a feeling of paralysis or being stuck and not being able to either start or to move forward. So on some level, a lack of focus in some way is often the culprit behind procrastination. So that's one indicator. Another indicator of the opposite of focus is distraction. So we live in a time where distraction has become such a part of the way that we are, that it's almost accepted as a normal part of things. However, distraction or being distracted is not normal, and we can do something about it. So there is a lot to say about distractions, and actually there are a few books that have come out recently on it. We're just going to touch a little bit on it because it's an important component to the opposite of focus and how we want to move forward in cultivating our focus by limiting our distractions. So another indicator of the lack of focus is also multitasking. So again, we live in a society that sort of prizes people who seemingly can multitask or can do a lot of different things at the same time, or at least give off the appearance of being able to do a lot at the same time. So many studies have been published that shows that we actually are not capable of doing multiple things at the same time. In fact, we're doing a lot of things, but we're shifting our attention between those things. But with multitasking, it's often with very little success. So it's looking busy. Like there's a lot of activity going on when we're multitasking because we're here, there, and everywhere and doing a lot of things. So there's a lot of busyness going on, but not necessarily a lot of productivity or a lot of being successful or accomplishments with the multitasking. So multitasking is the opposite of a focused response to whatever it is that we're undertaking. So if you see yourself, like I see myself in some of those behaviors, you will know that cultivating the ability to focus is something that you might want to work on. So there are many benefits for doing so, and I just want to quickly share some of them. So overall, anything that has to do with improving our ability to be more mindful is going to improve our well-being. But just to break down a little bit more specifically what that means. When we're able to focus, we can be more effective and efficient. So instead of simply seeming busy or looking like we're doing a lot, we can actually be doing a lot. We can be accomplishing a lot. So we are being more efficient. So we're getting those things done, and we're being more effective with the things that we're actually focused on doing, which then gives us a greater sense of control. When we have a greater sense of control, that boosts our sense of self-efficacy or our competence and how good we feel about ourselves. It also reduces our stress so that we don't feel like we're constantly overwhelmed with a long list of to-dos that never get done or are always being undertaken but never really being accomplished. Boosting our ability to focus also gives us clarity. When we are clear or focused, we can see what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, how it needs to be done, and we can actually see it through. So it helps us to do so, and it also helps our ability to make better decisions, to follow through on the things that we start, and to problem solve or to meet challenges that we will encounter. So in addition to those internal benefits that are for our well-being, developing a greater sense of focus and being able to do so also helps us in our other areas of our lives that involve other people. So in our relationships, be they personal or professional, it is always a good thing to be able to focus. I read an article the other day where businesses are saying that, forget about all the other skills. There are many skills now, especially today, that employees can sort of learn on the job. But one of the skills that is in most demand right now is just simply the ability to focus, to follow through. So let's talk a little bit about what that means. So psychologists have narrowed down 4 categories of attention. But for our purposes, we're only going to focus on 2 because they sort of fall into these. So divided attention is the area that I was speaking about, which most of us are well aware of divided attention. It's the ability to process more than 2 tasks at the same time. So divided attention is where we tend to be most of the time on any given, any time of day. We're doing one thing and doing something else. Somebody's talking that we're supposed to be listening to, but we're really listening to someone else's conversation not too far away, or someone's showing us something and we're looking at something on our phone, any other thing where we're doing more than one thing at the same time, or our attention is just simply divided. I'm watching the TV or seemingly watching the TV, but I'm also working on a project on my laptop. So any of those examples would be divided attention. Whereas the opposite of divided attention is focused attention. Focused attention is the ability to attend, which is where the word attention comes from, to attend to a task for an unlimited or an unspecified amount of time without distraction. So one more time, because this is the concept that we're going to be working on for the series. The ability to attend to a task for an unlimited or unspecified amount of time without distraction. Okay, so now focus is the ability to start a task. So we want to be able to start whatever it is without procrastinating because we're focused. We want to direct our attention and our efforts towards that task until that task is complete. Until the task is complete, or the amount of time that we're going to dedicate to the task is complete. That's focus. The good news about focus is it's not something that you either have or you don't have. It is something that we control, and like our muscles, like our brain, like all of that, we can train it, which is excellent because once we know that there's something that we can do about it, we can get to the business of doing something about it. So I found an acronym for focus that I really like, so I'm going to share it with you. And it's simply an acrostic for the word focus. And it's to follow one course until successful, which goes right along with the definition of focus, which is the ability to attend to a task without procrastination, without distraction, until it is complete, or until you have deemed that the time that you're going to dedicate towards that task is complete. So how and where does this connect to mindfulness? So it does connect with mindfulness because mindfulness comprises of 5 core components: attention, open awareness, acceptance, non-identification, and choice. So the first core component of mindfulness is in fact attention, and focus is all about the ability to direct our attention. So something that we should know about mindfulness is the definition, which is why I'm always returning to the definition, because it really grounds us in what is mindfulness. It always sounds, no matter how many times you say the word mindfulness, it just always seems abstract if you don't say, well, this is what mindfulness is. Mindfulness is simply paying attention to the here and now, to the things that are happening in the very moment. Why is that important? It's important because the here and now is the only time that we exist. We don't exist in the past because the past already happened. We don't exist in the future because the future has not happened. So the only time we exist is moment to moment, in every moment. So it would be useful for us to enrich our lives by actually paying attention to the only moments that we are alive in, which is always the here and now. If you think about that, if you were to play that concept back, it really is mind-blowing to know that we only exist moment to moment. But if you slow it down for yourself as well, you'll see that it makes more sense then to be aware of how we are existing and what we are paying attention to in the moment that we are able to experience it in. If we focus our attention on these moments, it will be much more beneficial to us as well. Why? One, for our own well being, and then for the well being of others that we interact with. So, something to keep in mind before we wrap up for today. At any given instance, there are two forces at play that are vying for our attention: the external and the internal. The external things are always the things that are distracting us, if you will. So things like our feelings, our thoughts, the sounds, things that we hear around us. Oh, there's my phone, or there's the the TV, or someone's calling me, or something happening. I hear a sound outside, so my attention goes over there, or I see something. Oh, puppies, right? So there are so many things always at play. And even though some of those things are actually happening inside of us, so you would think, well, our thoughts and our emotions are not external, they actually are, because we ourselves, the observer self, still can see our thoughts. We can observe what we're thinking, which means that our thoughts are not just existing on their own, that we can step back and we can decide whether to give attention to our thoughts, whether to give attention to our feelings. So they are inside of us, but they are also external forces at play for our attention. The good news, once again, is that we can train our ability to focus by becoming much more aware of these things as they happen. So that's where we're going to bring in the practice for this week. So the practice for this week is really easy, or at least it's the easiest way that we can start out. I want you to think of something that you do every day. So something like taking a shower, washing the dishes, checking your email, anything that you do on a daily basis, but something that you do for sure on a daily basis. And the reason why I want you to pick that thing is because 9 times out of 10, anything that we do over and over, we're not thinking about it anymore. We really don't attend to it. We're just doing it. So we're just doing it mindlessly and not really focusing. So in order to start the practice of cultivating more focus, I want you to choose something that you sort of do automatically, that you're not thinking about anymore. And you are going to bring your attention to doing that task. So whatever you choose, whatever your task is going to be for the week, each time you do it, you're going to practice by bringing all of your attention, all of your focus to completing that task. So for the entire time that you're taking a shower, the entire time that you're washing the dishes, the entire time that you're checking your email or talking to your friends, or working on something with your child, whatever it is, you're going to focus all of your attention on that task until the completion. While you do that, at some point, when you notice that your attention starts to drift or starts to wander off, you are just going to simply gently bring your attention back to the task at hand. So the challenge is noticing when your attention starts to drift. And then as soon as you notice that you are no longer fully attending to the task, you're just going to nudge that inner core, the ability that you have in yourself to notice what you're doing and to bring your conscious mind, your conscious effort back to the task at hand until it is done. In addition to that doing practice, you are also going to follow that up with the meditation that is going to be linked to this recording for this practice. Okay, so you're going to do that for the week. So that's all. We're going to start, like I said, nice and easy, because we're going to grow as we go in the sessions, so that you can sort of ramp up in the challenge. But this one, like I said, it sounds easier than it is to actually do it. But I want you to start as easy as possible so that you would be encouraged to continue in your practice. Okay, so again, you're going to pick a short task that you do every day. When you do that task, you're going to bring all of your attention to it. If you notice that your mind starts to wander off, you're just going to bring your mind back to the task. Just slowly bring your mind back to the task. That's all. Noticing what you're doing and bringing your mind back to the task. And you're going to follow it up with the meditation or any of the meditations that you feel comfortable doing. But there's one that I would recommend particularly for improving our focus during this series. Okay, so on that note, I'm just going to ask you once again to join me next time by subscribing to this channel so that you won't miss the the release of the next session. You can always get in touch with me at intentionaleducators@gmail.com. And if you visit my website at educatezen.org, you can also subscribe for the Educate Zen newsletter. So once again, thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you for the next session.